All right, guys. We're going to give this a part two tonight. The other night, whenever I had our guest on, Kirk, we had so many technical difficulties, and I'm hoping tonight is going to be different, that it's going to run a lot smoother. I don't know what caused it, but we had great connections. Everything showed great connections. The internet showed great connections. On his side, it's just something happened. I was wondering, are you all able to hear us? Can you hear me? Like, is it clear tonight? If anybody in the chat could just say yes, you could hear. No, I can't hear you. Is everybody able to hear me good in the chat tonight? Okay, I got a yep. They can hear me. Good. Okay, guys, before I bring the guest on, one guy says I'm breaking up. Lolita says she can hear me well. So we're going to give this a shot, guys. Hopefully, don't break up tonight. Hopefully not. Uh, Calvin will be joining us live tonight whenever he gets into the house. Also, he's going to be part of the conversation. So, first thing I want to say is I want to address Cynthia, and I believe her last name was Sundquist. She says, not long ago, time since you're so unfair, I canceled my membership. Everything good. Luck on your journey. The other night when I had my guest on, Kirk, she was continuously calling him a liar. And you all know I do not allow personal attacks like that. I do allow what I call spirited debate. If you don't agree with somebody, it's fine to say I don't agree with you. I disbelieve. I don't believe that way, or don't out and out call somebody a liar unless you have proof to show that they are lying. And since we don't have a body of any of these cryptids, then we don't have proof to say anybody's lying. Like me myself, I may not believe in orbs, but I listen to it, and I'm not disrespectful to people that do because I wasn't there. I didn't see what they seen. I can't unprove what they seen. The only thing I ask is, I just ask everybody to be respectful. We are a respectful channel. We're known for being respectful, and I'd like to keep it that way. But I do encourage spirited debate. I encourage hard questions, hard debate. But let's be professional about it and respectful whenever we disagree with somebody. I would appreciate that a whole lot. Let's see. Second thing I'll talk about. Man, our last live was going. We had so many difficulties and everything. It was a mess. Me and Kirk were rebooting, clearing cookies, and redoing our internets, and walking outside, sticking a piece of aluminum foil to the antenna, and we couldn't get anything to work. So hopefully tonight everything will run smoother, and we'll kind of recap the first video. I know a lot of you didn't get to hear everything that was said in the video, so I've got Kirk on the phone, and we're going to start all over just like the other night, and let's get into some things, and we'll go ahead and get started. Now, a lot of people, Kirk, want to know about your background. So if you would start with your background and a little bit about yourself, then we'll go from there, and we'll make sure if you can't hear Kirk guys when he's talking, please let me know, and we'll go ahead and start. Kirk, I'm going to let you have the floor and let everybody know your background, who you are, and how you got started.
Okay, to start with, I'm 64 years old. Actually, I'll be 64 this July 5th. I had my first Bigfoot encounter in 1977 at a apple orchard just outside of Sutton, West Virginia. That at first scared the hell out of me. I basically drew into a shell, did not talk about it, till one day I saw a drawing of exactly what I had seen in a book at the library and realized I was not the only one to ever see it, that I was it's not crazy. And ever since that time, I have been digging into cryptids. And anytime you go down that rabbit hole, the rabbit hole branches off. First, it was just Sasquatch. There could be nothing else out there. Then all of a sudden, I dog man. After I was on the show on Saturday, Monday morning, 2:40 a.m., which is when I leave for work, walked out my back door, and the fence line was a blue 6-inch diameter orb, 45 foot from me.
1 second. Everybody's saying they're seeing just a black screen. I don't know.
Wow.
Are y'all able to see and hear us right now, guys? Okay, they say we're back now, so let's try again.
Okay.
Kirk, you don't have very many friends.
What's that?
You don't have a lot of friends that like you very much.
Really? What can I say?
Hey, Michelle, good to see you. Yeah, go ahead, I guess, and we'll see what happens.
Okay, Monday morning, 2:40 a.m., when I walked outside my back door to go to work, there was a blue orb in the tree line 45 foot from my house. Just stayed floating there. I turned around, walked back in to get a camera, and it disappeared. This morning, 2:40 a.m., go out to go to work. In the tree line is exactly where the blue orb was, something very large, standard. Could not make out what it was, did not appear to be built like a Bigfoot, did not appear to be built like a dog man. I went back in the house for a second, came back out, it was gone. So, don't know whether that had anything to do with the show that we had, but those are the most recent occurrences around here.
Let's tell people about what we was talking about earlier, about what that African tribe caught.
Okay.
I think they will like that.
There is a particular individual that his name cannot be released for security reasons. He is high up in the military, and to make a long story short, he was over in Africa. He has a video of a tribe that encountered a blue orb, much like the one that I just saw a day ago. They they were able to net that orb. They left it till the next morning so they could see it at daylight. When they got there in the daylight, that blue orb was basically a giant wasp. They took their machetes, they hacked it apart, and that wasp turned out to be a drone. With wires, flashing. Now, where blue orbs turn into a giant wasp, and the wasp to actually be a drone, that tells you a government is behind that. Why?
And what would be better to use as a drone as something that occurs in the in the internet.
Exactly.
Because people aren't going to think, and didn't they say like in the back part of the bug it had like lights in it?
Lights in it and wires.
So could they possibly, you think, have been using those lights for maybe some kind of night vision purpose?
Sure.
Sure.
I would say the red were the infrared so that it could see. Also possibly to draw attention for some reason so that the government could get good identification pictures on the people that it was trying to. Possibly using that in a covert operation, something like when we got Bin Laden.
Right.
Verify the facial features.
So, last time you were talking about, everybody couldn't hear about the vampire house. They was wanting to rehear that. We got interrupted really strong on that.
Yeah. Okay. This vampire house is a house that was built in 1866. It's in Washington County, Pennsylvania. It was abandoned in 1986. It is out in the middle of nowhere, 3 miles as the crow flies to the closest paved highway. Paved roadway. Now, when me and part of my planet, it was 100% spotless clean. Even though the windows had been broken out, it was a walk-in basement. The living level, you would walk in from the front door, and then it had an upper level, which we assume were the bedrooms, although it may have been an attic. But anyways, we went in through the basement door into that level. You would assume, setting vacant for over 40 years, there would be dust, dirt, cobwebs, animal droppings, evidence of animals being in there. The house was not a cobweb, not a drop of dirt anywhere, no dust, nothing, no signs whatsoever that any animal had ever been in it, not even an insect. The only thing we did notice was graffiti on the one wall. It was a circle with a V in it. We didn't know what it was. We put it off as just being kids, Kids were in there at some point in time and did that graffiti. Don't know what it meant or anything. Well, about 6 weeks or so ago, I was sitting in my easy chair. I was watching a TV show, and all of a sudden, that symbol popped up on the TV show. Now, I wasn't paying attention to the show until I saw that symbol. When I saw that symbol, the hair on my arm stood up, the hair on the back of my neck stood up. Then I started paying attention. That show was called Vampires in America. It was done by Eric Street and Marcel Von Tingen, who, no, that's not his real name, that's his stage name. But with that being said, it was still very very much a documentary. What they were putting forth, they say, is true. Since that point in time, I have delved very deeply into the vampire legends. I've talked to the one person, they were a vampire hunter, spoke with him, and unfortunately, these things probably are true. All evidence points to it. We are in a very small area where that house is. And over the last 10 years, there have been 12 people that have disappeared without a trace. There have also been 3 bodies found that the coroner could not even identify or tell you the cause of death. And there was a decapitated skull found that none of the rest of the body was ever located. And the search for it was so intense that the state police actually used ground penetrating radar in a mile radius from where the skull was found to try to locate the body, and they never were able to find it. That skull is still considered to this day an open cold case. They were not able to identify the individual even through DNA. Now,
Didn't they mention that the skull had fangs?
they would not let any of, see, they had the fire department and they had the EMTs down there helping to coordinate the area off. They would not let them see it, but several of the firemen that got a glance at it said the teeth looked like fangs, not like humans.
So the house.
And the best way to describe it, where we have our eye teeth, is where the quote fangs were, but they appeared to be a quarter to 3/8 of an inch longer than any other person's eye teeth. They hung down below the rest of the teeth over a quarter inch, almost 3/8.
Was the head the same size as a normal skull?
The head was the same size as a normal skull. From the vampire hunters that I've talked to, and these 2 guys, that's all they do for a living. They make a living hunting vampires. They say you can be in a grocery store line with one in front of you or one behind you, and you would never know it unless you see the teeth. And they are very good at holding their mouth so you do not see the teeth. The bullshit about they can't be out in sunlight, that's wrong. They can, they prefer not to be. They don't change into bats. They are more human than we think. They are humanoids, but they are not human.
Do you think that I got a question? May not be an answer to this question. Do you believe that they have always existed, or do you believe that they were created in a lab?
Now, they have always existed. One vampire hunter is 75th generation. They have that documented with writings from each generation, and they have 200 years before Christ. And they have that in all that information in their family. A lot of the writings were done on goat skin.
You know, there was a book, and I cannot remember the name of the book, but there was a book that was written, and the first time that the book was written, it was actually written in human skin from a cult. It was a number 1 bestseller for a while. And I know that the only reason I know this is because my cousin actually bought and owned the book. But they said a lot of people that had bought that book had had a lot of weird things happen. My cousin, I'm not going to say his name, but he was into Dungeons and Dragons, and he was in his room one night. And he had painted his room black. He had the skulls. I mean, he had everything
Oh boy.
Dungeon and Dragon you could have.
Right.
And he said he woke up and he thought his mom was sitting on the end of the bed at first, and then as his eyes started to adjust, he noticed that it was a beautiful woman, and she was wrapped in a towel like she had just gotten out of the shower. But as she turned her head toward him, the older and uglier she got. And he didn't believe in Christ at the time, but he became a believer because he yelled at her to leave in Jesus' name. He had heard, the family talk about that.
Right.
And she did scream and leave. And after that, he got rid of all that stuff, repainted his room, found Christ, and hasn't had any trouble since. But he says it was a succubus.
Yeah, that was a succubus that he was visited by.
So I thought that was really interesting that had happened.
Yeah. So much of this stuff is spiritual, but people overlook a lot of the spiritual nature of it.
Right.
And as much as it pains me to say this, it's a sad thing that they cannot see that not everything is just a flesh and blood answer. Some of this stuff is sent by Lucifer. Some of it is definitely demons, and some of it is flesh and blood. But I will tell you this, right down to vampires, if it's flesh and blood, it can die. It can be killed.
For sure. And I think what you're getting at is the flesh, a heavy demon influence.
Right. Exactly right, Mike.
I was reading a thing today, and it made a lot of sense to me. There was it was a fictional interview, but it said if there was an interview with Satan, Satan would say, one of my biggest weapons against humanity is, and they said, which one is the strongest? And he said, well, of course, I use sex against them because it seems to be the strongest. And he says, but of course, I didn't invent sex, but I done a really good job of perverting it.
And that's true.
And that's, kind of what I was talking about, you can have creatures out there by demons.
Right. Just like the Gugway from the Girl Scout murders. 100% demon possessed.
They had seances before the Girl Scouts ever arrived. I have to be careful in my wording here because the lady I'm about to talk about is in law enforcement. So, or was, I don't know if she still is. She was last I checked. Allegedly, we'll put it like that. Allegedly, and my hypothesis on the story would be that, even an opinion, she, Carla Wilhite, she made a statement that really bothered me. And I'm surprised that it wasn't caught. Whenever I went through and read one of the statements she made, she said she heard a guttural noise that was not human. She saw flashlights in the woods. She heard a growling, and she just lays down and goes to sleep. And then in her statement, and then in her statement, she says, the one thing that I regret was I didn't wake up. How in the hell did you go to sleep?
Yeah, she didn't go to sleep.
And if she
I'll
and
guarantee you that.
and even if she did, there's only one reason that she could, in my opinion.
She was involved.
Yeah, she knew who was out there and what was going to happen, and it wasn't gonna hurt her.
Right. Right.
Another thing that really bothered me was even the counselors next door said they heard a a little girl yell for her mama, and nobody checked.
I, you know, that rubs me the wrong way.
It was storming.
Whether the counselors were trying to do, shall we call it tough love, by letting her alone, I don't know, but if they were, it was the wrong thing. And somebody should have checked on that girl.
I believe it was negligent.
Yeah. Sure.
Um,
Like I said, somebody should have checked on that little girl.
Another thing, she was taking Tylenol with codeine in it. So the counselors were taking prescription drugs. So
And the next question is, did they have a prescription?
Or was they partying? Was it a big party?
Exactly. We think alike, Mike. You know, there's too much about that case that does not add up.
It's just the Googway was supposed to be involved that night, whenever they were killed. That would, in the OSBI's opinion, explain how the tent pole was snapped by hand, which they said was humanly impossible.
Right.
Let's talk about Anita a little bit.
The autistic little girl.
A lot of people don't know this part about it. Actually, I haven't even heard her covered in any of the investigations I've actually watched.
Imagine that.
Not one time.
Okay, I'm assuming that everybody knows of the three girls, one of them was a African American girl. The African American girl had a younger sister. The younger sister was autistic. They call it Asperger's syndrome, which is a high functioning autism. Now, with that being said, there is a very strange connection between the autistic and cryptids of all types. And when I say that, I shouldn't be so general with it. I should bring up Sasquatch seems to have a deep connection to autistic. Dogman has a deep connection to the autistic. Even the Gugway seems to have a deep connection to the autistic, and it is very much like they communicate with them for some reason. Now, while that girl was at the Girl Scout camp and her little sister was at home, she told her mother that her sister was going to die tonight and she would never come home. How did that little girl know that? And why did the mother not believe it?
She told the OSBI and they didn't even investigate it.
Imagine that.
Yeah. And Dana, real quick, I know what you're talking about, Dana Ortega. I was on there about a week ago, I had a disagreement on his channel, and I was also attacked and everything because he was saying something that was not correct, and I was about and debated a little bit about it with him, and I ended up blocked and everything, and he wouldn't even debate. It was one of those I'm right, right, right. So I understand where you're coming from. The best thing you can do is I won't be back to that channel, but I understand exactly what you're going through. I had somebody talking on here about some things that had happened to them on another channel, and a lot of channels, if you don't, you're automatically wrong, and they just block you. And I'm like, if you know everything, then how come you don't have a body?
Correct.
That's my thing.
Correct. But while you have that idea open, I will say these have been killed. I know 2 boys that killed a dog man in 2012 in Kentucky. I know a man that killed a rock ape in 1969 in Cambodia. And I know a man that killed a Sasquatch in Minnesota in 2017. And you know what? The only one that was not taken by the government was the one in Cambodia.
You know, like the Smithsonian, they're going to take it and you're never going to hear about it again. So, I mean,
this little town that I live in is about 1,700 people. Okay, we are right off of US Route 70 at the west end of Pennsylvania. Okay, they put a new bridge and overpass in at exit 32 miles into Pennsylvania from West Virginia. That was 4.5-5 years ago. When they were doing the overpass, they had stopped work for a week and a half because they found a 9-foot tall skeleton. They shut everything down. Several of the workers I talked to, and then lo and behold, they got fired 2 days later. What happened to that skeleton? I don't have a clue.
I know what happens to some of them.
It was a big deal right away, and then just hush hush.
I know what happens to them. Some of them.
Yeah.
They build $1 million bridge to a dead end swamp, and they dig a really big hole, pour a lot of concrete in it, and a lot of riprap, and cover it with rocks. And you know the best place to do that, poor land, because number one, it's illegal to take anything off land.
Exactly.
So that's the best place to hide it.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Because, I mean, if you go down there and you get caught, it don't matter if it's a pebble.
You're going to jail.
Yes, a tree. And you notice how they wrote the law. Everything down there is a $500 fine, which substantiates a felony.
Yeah, and also each count actually, it's an accumulated effect. So literally you can have a handful of pebbles. They will literally count each pebble. If you have 20 pebbles in your hand, you now have 20 felonies.
And they will prosecute.
Yes, they will. And I actually am certified by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for construction management.
They own everything that touches the soil.
Right.
Or is underneath or above the soil.
Yeah, exactly right.
I asked them, I called them and asked them a question. I said, why did you all, and I knew why they did, but I called them and I said, why did you all build $1 million bridge to a dead end? And you know what he told me? That ain't none of your business. And I said,
because we can.
yeah, I told him, I said, I'm a taxpayer. I want to know, where my tax money's going. And I tried to push it. I couldn't get nowhere.
That didn't work.
No, they wasn't going to hear it. But I did find out.
Exactly right.
I called the museum that they contacted during their dig.
Yeah.
And museum said that they called it Native American pots and stuff they had found, But
imagine that it's always Native American.
Even the lady skull down there that they had on the back of a truck.
Yeah.
She said was huge. She said it looked like a human skull. And I asked him, I said, is that part of a decoration or something you'd put at the end of a gate or something? And she said they just covered it up and said, what? What are you talking about?
Yep. Yep. It all goes back to disinformation. The government does not want us to know.
Right.
And it comes down to follow the money.
I just thought
that's just like the red-haired giants from Lovelock Cave. Were those the last of them? No. I will guarantee you there are still more of those out there.
It makes you wonder how many times and something has stalked you. Because I guarantee you, if you've been in the woods, you've been stalked by something.
Guaranteed.
That would be,
Mike, I was basically raised in the woods. My father owned a large junkyard in the state of Ohio that bordered up to a woods behind it. And Ohio is known to not have any rattlesnakes. Okay, but yet we found rattlesnakes there. We killed rattlesnakes back there. When you were back there, you always had an eerie feeling. Now, did anybody ever see anything that I know of in that area? No, but yet in Ashland, which is only about 22 miles by the way the crow flies, south of it, yes. Not only had Bigfoot been spotted there on numerous occasions, all the way up to last year. Also, Dogman has been spotted. There are several reports from Ohio State Highway Patrol of seeing dogmen in that area. And one report by an Ohio State Highway Patrol that said he didn't know what the hell it was. It looked like a grizzly bear running around on its hind legs.
Could you imagine seeing like that? Just walking
Remember,
up.
there are no grizzly bear and very damn few black bear in the state of Ohio. And if you do find a black bear in the state of Ohio, it's going
to talk to the wardens down there, then they're going to tell you, well, what you saw was probably another hunter.
Yeah, exactly right.
That's what aggravates me. They treat
it's
you.
Funny, Mike, and I hate to bring another group into this, but Jody Cook with North American Dogman Project a few years back investigated an area in Ohio where a bunch of dogs were killed by a suspected dogman. We're talking about it. We were comparing facts because I investigated what we actually at the time thought was the exact same killing. Well, once we started comparing dates and such and
Can you
dog
hear me, Mike?
types, turned out it was 2 different attacks, approximately 33 miles apart from each other, and days from each other. The neighbor, and she said it was bigger than a grizzly bear standing on its hind legs.
Calvin to the show. He just joined us. A lot of people said we are getting attacked again on breaking up and
Imagine
stuff.
that.
I figured
So
as
we'll
much.
see how good we can go from here. But good to see you, Calvin. Glad you was able to make it.
Well, I was a little late, but I apologize about that.
Calvin, is
Can you
nice
hear me
to
good?
meet you.
You too, Kirk.
And Calvin's breaking up on my end.
Yeah. It seems they're good at this.
But you can hear me, right? Can you hear me at all, Mike?
I can hear you.
A little bit, yeah. They're breaking you up a little bit.
Yeah, imagine that.
Now, something I haven't told the viewing audience, I did go out Sunday, buy a brand new laptop. About 6 o'clock, I went to sign in to YouTube, and it locked up, then turned black and died. So I turned right around with my phone, tried to go on YouTube. My phone did the same thing. In order to even be able to make this phone call, I had to do a complete system restore on it. And with that being said, all it is doing is letting me make calls right now.
So something's going on.
Yeah. And just for what it's worth, my opinion, I would not be having these problems if I were not getting close to the truth.
I think so too. Hey, Calvin, did you have any questions for him about the vampire or anything that he found in the skull?
Right now, no. I've been listening and everything. It's just right now, no. I'm pretty well caught up right now, and I was trying to think of something to ask Kurt, and I just so far, I just came in early. I just got here. I was on my way home when you called me earlier. And I
Okay.
was sitting there thinking.
Yeah, if you have anything or you want to ask anything, just let
Well,
us know
Kurt,
and we'll
what?
get you in there. There's a little bit of a delay between us, but I think we can work.
Okay. I do have a question, Kurt. Where do they usually gather at? Are they usually single, or there's more than one at a time, or how?
Vampires can gather where
Yes.
they say known to gather in a house. They've been known to gather in ghettos. There's no one reason, and there is a thought that they are actually using these self-storage to hide themselves in and gather in them.
Okay. Right. And I know you said the only way to kill them is by decapitation.
There's
Well, I don't like to get that close.
that was back in 1850. He was in the Phoenix area. He owned some silver mines. The odd thing about him is he's still listed today. Wow. He owns 400 stores throughout the U.S.
Okay.
Now, the picture around 1850. He appeared to be about 40 years old. So people that would put his date of birth around 1810, which would make him 213 years old.
Wow.
But he's still active in 200 storage facilities throughout the U.S.
Okay, how do they
North
age?
America, U.S. and Canada.
I mean, do they look their age or?
No, they look. That's as I was telling on the last podcast. What many believe is probably most of all vampires is named Count Saint Germain. The first account of him was in 1710. He had a portrait done in France, 1741. He appeared to be about 40 years old at that time. He had a picture done in 18 in Charleston, South Carolina. He still appeared to be about 40 years old. And then he had a picture done. And he still appeared to be about 40 years old.
Okay. Wow. So I guess they don't have a.
Yeah.
Okay.
The people that actually hunt these things believe once they feed on human blood, they will go into a state of hibernation. And that state of hibernation, depending on the amount of blood, quality of blood that it was, will last anywhere from 5 years to 200 years.
Now,
It's thought
Kirk's breaking up.
these things are originated from the human 60,000 years and developed this intestinal system. Like I said, that one vampire hunter, his family traces 75 generations of vampire hunting back to BC.
We're getting some weird noises coming across.
Yeah, you noticed that.
Yeah.
I've heard them before.
That's new.
What was that?
It's funny that we're getting weird.
Yeah.
I'm getting like a screech.
Yeah, we started to heard evidence and stuff like that, and it's happening. Like it tells you we're on to the truth.
Decoy asked, are cattle mutilations with missing blood part of what we think is the vampire phenomenon?
Sure, cattle mutilations, in my opinion, and others that I know, are probably the vampires. Vampires feed off the cattle, the blood on the cattle. They can feed off any mammal, anyone, but to a vampire, it's like having a steroid. But the cattle mutilations are done after with blood.
Right.
Just like Hank, my partner that had a group of men, Hank and I found deer skeletons completely intact. We took those skeletons apart phone by phone, looking for knives. I've in my life been able to dress a deer out without leaving a knife mark on at least one bone. Those deer had no marks on them anywhere.
You know, they say there's not any blood found whenever they do find these animals. If there's not even like a drop of blood in them.
Yeah, it's like they just drain it.
Outside of Phoenix. Once more, they know the guy was killed. There was not a drop of blood. He was completely drained. Now, I'm going to tell you, there were 2 vampires in that attack. The neck, one to the femoral artery.
Wow, a lot of people say that. Again, or is it real bad, guys? Are you able to hear us, or is it unhearable?
It's running kind of. It's like breaking up on me.
Is it breaking up pretty bad to you, Cal?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Well, if you want, we can end this and do another surprise one.
Seems we're getting attacked a lot whenever we try to talk about this, and we're really not talking about anything, super, super deep that we could actually, dive into. Lyndon Price.
I'm going to stop you right there because some of the world's government are involved in this.
Right.
There is involved deep up in every single government that means anything in this world.
Everybody's breaking up, Kirk. Let me see if this helps any.
Okay.
See if I want to switch you around just a little bit and see if this helps people hear better. Let me know, guys, if this helps Kirk whenever he's talking, if he's any clearer to you.
Let me ask you this, Mike. Can you hear me clear?
I hear you perfect.
It's only breaking up once it goes on to the YouTube channel.
Yes, Kirk.
So that should tell you something, that it is something to do with YouTube. Somebody is controlling me breaking up.
I hear you perfectly fine. I mean, you are absolutely clear.
You come in clear to me, but sometimes it's breaking up.
Okay, people say we're better right now. I'll tell you what I done, and it kind of tells me something.
Okay.
I just switched my VPN.
Can you imagine that?
So let's see how long till they can find my new VPN.
I guarantee you it won't take too long.
Probably not. Another thing people don't think about, during the Girl Scouts, to bring those up a little bit, they took Miss Farmer out to where her daughter was killed, and she said, if I would have known my daughter was going to be sleeping in an area, there is no way I would have ever sent my daughter here, because I would have been too afraid to sleep here myself.
Right. And quite frankly, that area, before that happened and even after it happened, is not a good area. Spiritual wise, that area, how do I want to put this? Well, let's just say I would go places that most people wouldn't go, simply because I'm that type of person. I want the truth. And if I've got to use myself as bait, so be it. If I get killed by one of these things, if it helps to prove that they do exist, then it was a small price to pay. But with that being said, that is an area that I would be very leery about going to. I would go to it, but I would be so on guard because there's too much negative energy. Let's put it like that.
I've decided after speaking with a good friend of mine, he's behind the scenes part of my team, Steve, and we feel like there's nothing to gain by visiting that area. There's been people in and out of there hundreds of times. I'm not gonna see anything that hasn't been shown.
No, you're not.
Those little girls, they lost their lives violently, and my opinion.
No, it wasn't silent. It was a very noisy killing.
Yeah,
they were not killed all three instantly. They were killed one by one.
Yeah, and it was violent, and I think the only thing to come out of there is bad.
Right.
I don't think there's any good to be had there. I've spoke with Cal about this. It was also his opinion that let the girls rest in peace there. There's
Correct.
no. It comes to respecting them and then respecting their family, and there's nothing. 50 years later, you're not going to find anything.
You're not going to do anything.
The only thing you're going to do is maybe get something to ride home with you.
You're going to stir up old wounds.
Right.
Yeah. The only thing you'll be doing there.
I would not be opposed to going there. I would be on very high guard. But would I expect to find anything out about the girls? No, not at all.
It's a very somber place. There's no doubt in my mind that it was a cult ritual.
Yes, it was.
I have to walk easy on this. What I'm going to say here. The information that I've received from a third party has given me a little bit of idea. The little black girl, the Milner girl, it's thought that she was probably tortured more than the other two girls based on based
off of the injuries she was.
Yes. One of the suspected and alleged perpetrators was racist. He after the murder, the suspect flew to California, and 2 days later, the second suspect also met him in California. And then whenever Jean Leroy Hart was found not guilty, they came back home.
Unfortunately, they never tried the third suspect either.
And I would even go as far to say, and I'm no big time investigator. I was in a small town. But I'm going to say that there was probably, I wouldn't be surprised if there was upwards of 10 people involved in this murder or more. Just based on reading another sheriff's report, there was a sheriff that said he knew who the murderers were. And he even wrote in his report, the OSBI seems that they do not want to help in this investigation and are dragging their feet and are that they were happy with the results of the trial of Jean Leroy Hart.
Well, from the research that I've done, and from what I know about the laws that were on the books at the time that it happened. Now remember, some of the laws have been changed since, but there are people charged. Okay. That, shall we say, were friend involvement, but 6 people should have been charged.
There was a man, I'm not going to release his name right now, that was sitting in his front room with 3 young boys, and he noticed that one of the boys was wearing some tennis shoes that were not common. They had match any tennis shoes like he had ever seen.
Right.
And that stuck in his mind. The little boys were sitting in the front room, and whenever Carla Wilhite came on the news when the murders had happened, this one child says, I know her. And the little boy said, they helped kill the little girls, okay?
Carla was reading a script.
Well, the father noticed during the investigation when the news showed the cave that they found allegedly Jean Leroy Hart's stuff inside the cave. He said he recognized the footprint in the cave as the weird footprint that was on the boys, and he took it to the sheriff, but the sheriff refused to follow up on it.
Yep. As I said, there are 6 people.
Why follow up on something that you're covering up anyways?
Other 5 that do have some culpability in it, but it would be a stretch to charge them. There are many people involved in this case. This was a scripted case, and we are never going to get the truth.
Right. And what was you saying, Calvin? That way you can get in. We got like a little delay.
Okay. It's like, why would you even investigate it if you're the sheriff when you're going to cover it up? I mean, that would be a waste of time.
To be doing your job, just like with the Corey Godsey case in Kentucky. They knew what it was all about before they ever started investigating. Otherwise, they would have never called the neighboring county in 30 minutes after he came up missing.
Okay.
Or here's
they knew the results before they ever got them, but they needed to make it look good.
Well, see, Corey Godsey, they know what attacked and killed him. The family does, and they had it taken care of.
Everybody down there knows what killed them. Everybody down there is so afraid to say anything. And the law enforcement down there has their thumb on everybody down there so tight that they are afraid to tell the truth.
Yeah,
absolutely. It took till
I think Cal actually
2.5 years after it happened before I was ever able to sit down with that ambulance driver and speak with him. And as I said, he's the man that picked the damn body up and took it to the morgue, and he's the man that picked the body up from the morgue and took to the funeral home. He's seen hundreds of bodies, and he damn sure knows when a body was feasted on. And he said Corey Godsey's was 100% eaten.
Hey, Cal, you had some information on that I think you had a
Yeah.
lot of good stuff on that.
Uh, my wife's first cousin was one of the first troopers that arrived on the scene. And I personally have seen the crime pictures, the photos, and everything, and it was a mess. It
Yeah,
pretty much it pretty much looked like a mortar round hit him.
pretty close. If you notice in those photos, it was his midsection and
Yeah, it's gone.
his midsection to upper left hand, chest, and shoulder area that it was concentrated on.
You know, y'all were talking about the sheriff and the Girl Scout case. I'll give you another good reason that he investigated that. Here's my theory. He was involved in the murder and involved in possibly the cult that done it. So what better position to be in than the head investigator of a case that you need to?
Exactly.
True.
Exactly. I don't know 100% that he was involved in the cult as a member. I'm going to say, if I use the term hang around, are you familiar with that?
Yes.
Okay, for anybody that isn't, like with your biker clubs, hells, pagans, all of them, outlaws, a hang around is somebody who wants to join the club, but hasn't earned the status and trust of the club yet to even be considered a prospect.
You got to be a prospect.
So,
yeah.
I really think that's the position that the sheriff was in.
But you have to be a prospect before you can be a patch member.
So, I mean, there's going to be a lot more come out. I hope that I help bring that out. I mean, God knows I spend enough time researching on it. And
I want to throw a wrench out there to everybody. I want to throw one to you, Al, too. It's going to blow your mind. I want to give a teaser to what I got coming out. What if I said I had a witness that was present at the time that the sheriff admitted he was going to plant evidence to indict Mr.
already know. Already know.
Were the three men?
That's just a little.
Go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead.
You know, either I'm going to have to move to Oklahoma or you're going to have to move up here because we make too damn good of a team.
Yeah, I've dug really deep on it, and Cal knows a lot about what I got coming out. What do you think, Cal? Is it going to blow some minds?
It's going to set the cryptid world on its ass.
Till after Memorial Day. And the reason I'm going to say that is Memorial Day weekend, I am supposed to be, I'm supposed to be doing a interview with somebody that's going to blow your mind. And when you hear what she has to say, you'll just sit there and scratch your head.
What case is she involved with?
With the Oklahoma Girl Scout murders.
Right. What's your thought on that, Calvin, on the Girl Scout murder, from what you know and everything?
Well, I know one thing. The three people that they had suspects, they would never got tried if it'd been my child. But with everything that
I agree with you.
We've talked about, it's gonna blow minds, and I'm biting at the bit. I can't wait for you to
It's
release
enough
that.
that it's enough that the witnesses are actually going to go into protective custody. That's releasing this information to me, and with good cause.
Oh yeah.
Well, the one I'm talking to Memorial Day weekend, she literally is right before my interview. She will be talking with a member of the FBI. And I'm not going to say to happen, but she believes that there will be some on.
I think,
and being the fact it's a triple murder, there is no statute of limitations.
right, and also, I believe, just from the investigations I've done, I have 57 pages
Okay, what's
of
going on?
investigative reports. I've now been lucky enough that I have transcripts that were ordered sealed that were released to me. And by what I have found and by what I know, out of the murderers, there is one left that is
Correct.
still living at this
That
time.
is correct.
And he does not live far from me. I'll put it like that.
Really?
I could probably be at his house in 45 minutes.
Well, like I said, the hope is after this lady has talked with the FBI and the particular FBI agent that I have set this up with, he is hoping to charge several members of law enforcement. Actually, one is a former member and one is still a current member.
Uh-oh, we lost Calvin.
I told you it wouldn't take long to find a VPN.
You know, it's just Decoy wants to know, when will I be releasing this information? It's going to be really soon. I'm getting ready to meet some more witnesses. I'm doing interviews. I have
Like I
paid.
say, Mike, please do not release it before Memorial Day.
No, it won't be. I don't believe it'll be that soon. I have so much to go through. Just, transcripts alone, and talking to witnesses, and breaking that all down and putting it into format and relevancy. It's going to be a little bit. It's going to be well worth it. The witness is actually going to go on camera. It's going to be her words. It's going to be, an anonymous name, of course, but she wants to go on camera. She needs to get it off of her chest.
Sure, she's getting a lot older. Her time on this earth is not that great left.
Right.
And quite frankly, as I said, I'm almost 64 years old. I'm not in the greatest of health, and that's the biggest reason that I come on the show, is because I feel I don't have that much longer. Maybe a dozen years, if that, if I'm lucky. And I need to pass anything that I've learned along the way on to others to help keep them safe, but to also hopefully they will continue with the investigations into this. Right. So that someday the truth can come out to the entire population.
Yeah, I mean, and you may have 20 years left. I mean, you never know. I always say don't borrow.
Well, just to let you know something you don't know. Number one, the history behind me is remarkable. I've been shot twice. I've been stabbed. I've fallen 38 foot onto concrete and walked away. I was in a car when it blew up. And when I say it blew up, there was a bomb planted in it, and it blew up. The driver of the car was killed. I got struck by lightning. I died and was dead for 21 minutes on the operating table, even though I was floating in the room above them and watched the two surgeons argue over calling time of death. And then just all of a sudden, I came back. I sat straight up on the operating table and screamed at the top of my lungs, I'm not ready to die yet. The one surgeon passed out. The nurse pissed herself. And the anesthesiologist, I thought, was having a heart attack, trying to get me back under so they could finish the operation. So, yeah, how much time do I have left? I don't know.
Right. A guy just asked a good question. He said, what does the tribal think about the Girl Scout murders? I spoke with a few, and they believe also that it was a Googway involved, and y'all are going to see why. It's crazy. It's scary. It's cultism. It
was a Googway with a shaman at the behest of three brothers.
Yeah, and even an eviler shaman that arrived later, which we'll talk about him when I release it. I found out there was another shaman that actually was wickeder than the shaman they were actually looking for. These little girls, and I'm not going to go into what happened to them out of respect to the family, because talking about what they look like, being very particular, doesn't help any right now.
No, not at all.
We'll just say that it was very horrendous what they went through. It was, their bodies were unrecognizable, and I'll leave it at that till I drop it. Mr. Tartan Mystic wants us to get back to the vampire subject.
Okay.
He wants to hear more about the vampires. He says, the female witness that you got distracted away from, not meaning to sound mean. Was you talking about a female witness, maybe? That witnessed?
Not for the vampires, but yes, for in the vampire house. We actually made 2 trips there with 2 different females, and something I'll go ahead and release that I've never even told you yet. I do use a psychic in my investigations, and she is a very good one. She is known far and wide. She has worked on 19 missing people cases for the police, and she has been successful in 17 of them. 17 out of 19 is one hell of a good record.
Right.
That lady, to me, is indispensable. How she does it, I do not know.
You're going to laugh at me on this one. I got a lot of ridicule in the office whenever I did work. A lot of the investigators and detectives, they would use psychics. I never would use them because I felt, what the Bible had said about them, necromancy.
And I agree with you.
So I never did use them, and I was always, I guess, criticized for it. But my track record, you're going to love this. I had a 99% record for being able to prosecute and get a person accused of a crime. 99%, which was higher than the older detectives that were above me. I was the youngest ever to make captain at the place I worked. So
now I'm gonna go kind of totally off topic blow your mind. What do you know about remote viewing? The CIA.
There again, okay, I'll give you my opinion on it, and then I'll let you go.
Okay.
Okay, this is going to get me in deep trouble right now. Jessica Jones, I'm sorry. I love her to death. She's a great person. She's very sweet, very knowledgeable. Can't say enough about her. I've been on her show many times. Felt my beliefs on remote viewing. I believe it works. I'm not saying that it doesn't work. I am against work. People say if remote viewing doesn't work, then how many occasions? To me, it's a simple answer, and the simple answer is remote viewing something that happened in the past is something that has already happened. It's already happened, in the past. Now, if you're looking down and you're seeing this happen, there is what we call familiar spirits, which are demons that have been here since the beginning of time. They can tell you, influence you, deceive you, and show you anything that you want to see, because remember, this is his world right now.
Okay. The CIA, back when they started the remote viewing program, picked what they considered the best there were. Okay, now remember, my last name is Reed. One of those 10 is a very close relative named Henry Reed. I'm going to leave it at that.
Uh-huh.
And I will send you a picture of all of these guys that literally probably should not be out for people to see. All out of the remote viewing now. Although I do know Henry, actually, after he got out of it, became the head of the Edgar Cayce Society. And I assume you know who Edgar Cayce is.
Not real familiar remotely.
He was the sleeping prophet. Cayce made a lot of predictions that he has a much better track record than even Nostradamus does. And as I say, Henry, last I knew, and I don't talk to that side of the family that often, but last I knew, Henry was the head of the Cayce Society.
But a thing that we have to ask ourselves is, where are they getting that information from?
Correct.
That's the problem I have.
Correct. But not only seeing in their view, of course, nothing more than latitude and longitude told, what do you see here? And they would literally write down what they saw, pictures of what they saw, and they had, all of them had a phenomenal success rate.
Right. Yeah, I don't doubt the success rate. I just have a problem, where they get their information from, because God says, be careful, of the necromancy and the gypsies and the fortune telling, and if we need to go beyond and to know, then we're down, on the Holy Ghost to guide us and give us that information. And I think that's why God even tells us later on to question and challenge all spirits, because you don't know where that's coming from.
Correct. And I agree with you totally on that. My only thing that I will state is these people have a tremendous success rate. Where they get the information, I don't know. But I will say this. They have helped me greatly in several cases. could I have got as far as I have in those cases without them? No, I could not have. It just, do I really feel good about where they're probably getting the information? No, I do.
Right. Back to this. What happened to you, brother?
Everything's
I think
breaking
Calvin's
up.
still having trouble, maybe.
You there, Calvin?
I'm here.
Did they kick you, or did you lose connection, Calvin?
No.
Boy, they're after Calvin hard. Calvin, we don't have
Yeah.
any audio from you.
Yep. Well,
How about
maybe
now?
they figure if they you because your VPN changed, they'll go after Calvin.
Yeah, they just booted him again.
Yeah, Mike, I'm after we get off this call, I'm actually gonna send you that picture of the 10 founding members of the CIA's remote viewing with a little history of each one on it, little bio.
Okay.
And like I say, just look at Henry, and Henry and I actually look very close to the same.
Oh, that is interesting.
Yeah, then I'll tell you what our actual relative connection is.
Queen of Forex wants to know if you have any more information on vampires.
What would she like to know?
What would you like to know, Queen of Forex? I believe I'm pronouncing her name right. I butcher a lot of names. I've always
I
done
do
it.
too.
There's a lot of things that go on in the world that really bother you, and I've seen a lot of cases that really bothered me, but the more and more you dig into that Girl Scout case, it eats at you. I've spent many nights all night on it, and
So have I.
She wants to know if believe are they're physical.
Yes, they are physical. They could be standing in a grocery store line right beside you, and you would never know it is a vampire.
And then
they look the same as you and me. You can touch them. You can feel them. They feel the same as you and me.
So that's funny. Everybody said our sound's coming back now that we get off of that stuff.
Imagine that.
Yeah. And I think you also mentioned that they can be killed also, and
they definitely can be killed, and the preferred way of killing one is to decapitate it.
Sharon's got a question for you.
Sure.
Kirk, since the vampire don't age, do they move around from place to place to hide identity?
Yes. Number one, they do move frequently. Number two, they do age, but they only age when they are not hibernating. If a vampire looks 40 years old when it goes into hibernation, it can hibernate 150 years. Come out, it will still look 40. It can be out 4, 5, 10 years even. It will, at that time, age the amount of time that it was out, and then it goes back into hibernation. And the only difference you see in it was the, say, 5 or 10 years that it aged while it was out of hibernation.
Wow.
So you literally could have a vampire that's 500 years old and looks 50 years old.
Since we're getting to the end of the show, guys, we've been on an hour and a half. If you have any questions that you'd like answered before we get off, go ahead and type them in capital letters, and I'll try to get to them, and we'll test Kirk's brain on him. If y'all have any questions before we go, I'm sure.
And as I said, the guys, anybody out there, my phone number is listed under my Facebook page. If there's something you really want to know, they can call me. I will answer to the best of my ability. And if I don't know, I will tell them. Or if it is something that is legally sensitive, such as Girl Scouters that isn't completely over with yet, I'll tell them I can't talk about that just yet. That I will take your number, and after the authorities are done and have determined that it is over with, then I will go ahead and call them back, and I will fill them in what my part in it was, what I knew, what I was able to help them with.
All right, Decoy wants to know, how can vampires be identified in life, in real life?
The easiest way is their teeth. As I said, they're what we would call eye teeth, are about 3/8 of an inch, too damn long. They overlap the outside of their bottom teeth, and if you ever see one smile, you will see the teeth look like they could literally just rip you in half.
Richard Cox.
But they are very good at holding their mouth closed so that it does not look, or let me say, so that you cannot notice that they have those teeth.
And then Richard Cox wants to know, does he have information on the original Majestic 12?
Not that I will release. I do have some. I cannot talk about that right now.
I don't even know anything. I've never even heard of that. That's so that's way over my head right there.
Yeah, that's one that I kind of wish I did not.
Sounds interesting.
You and I will have a discussion about it privately, Mike.
Sounds like it would be probably the forefathers or something, maybe, if I were guessing.
No, it was in the 50s it started.
Let's see. We got some more. Do we have any more? Okay, this guy got a question. We got a lot of questions coming up. He says, how can a vamp suck blood with fixed fangs without leaving a hickey-type mark on the victim?
The vampires, when they bite them, actually will bite two different places. Either the carotid artery, which is the artery of choice, or the femoral artery, which is the secondary, and you'll see that normally bit when there are two vampires feeding off the same body. They literally break the vein, the artery, with their fangs, and then stand there or sit there and suck the blood out. The fangs are not hypodermic-like. They are normal teeth-like, only a hell of a lot pointier, longer, and sharper.
And Decoy says if their teeth are hidden, how can you identify them? You say when they talk or smile, right? Is that what you said?
If they smile to the point where it shows their entire set of teeth, shall we say, and like a person smiling and you can see their eye teeth, if they smile that large, then you can see the fangs.
I'm not sure what this means. I put it up on the screen. It says, Mike, something says to say you have each of you friends in high places. I would say work accomplices.
Well, as I said, I do have a lot of friends in law enforcement, anywhere from the local police all the way up to Secret Service.
I'm not going to read what I got posted on the screen because of the name. It'll flag us. But if you want to take a look at it and answer it, Kirk, I'll let you take a look at that.
Remember, from this end, I can't see anything.
The elder President GB initials was a member of the Majestic 12.
Correct.
So that's interesting to me.
And when it all will be said and done, the Majestic 12 was not 12. Majestic 12 was 18 people.
Queen of Forex wants to know, how did the vampires become vampires?
Number one, and this is strange because you and I probably could not smell it, but vampire actually has a scent that it leaves. Your cattle mutilations are a very good example of that. Vampires will leave a scent, and that's why you see no other animals will go around a cattle mutilation. If you come across a cattle mutilation, that damn thing can lay there for 2 weeks and not be touched by any other predator. Coyotes won't bother a cattle mutilation, and it's because the scent is very long lasting.
Interesting. Well, I think that's about all of our questions, and we've kept everybody on for almost an hour and 40 minutes tonight. So I think we're going to go ahead and say goodbye and good night on this one. And Kirk, if you'd like to come back sometime, we may have you back.
Brother, anytime you'd like me on, all you got to do is let me know. You know that.
All right. We appreciate you spending almost an hour and 45 minutes with us almost. I want to thank our guests for showing up tonight, for all the good questions and hanging out with us. We had a really high out turn tonight. Whenever you go to leave, please don't forget to hit a like. It helps with the algorithm. If you want, go back, review the video. If you lost and didn't see all this, leave a comment. Even then will help. It helps with the algorithm. And until next time, guys, be careful. Keep your head on a swivel, and for sure, don't be something's dinner. And we'll see you on the next one. I appreciate each and every one of you. God bless.
Very good show.